So it's our guest today describes himself as a wandering minstrel who has adventures on tour. Wonder what those are. I've seen the Northern Lights, the Midnight Sun, and dozens of wonderful galleries. Nearly 50 years and counting. Steve Harley, good day to you.
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
All right, so that's good that you've seen all those places along the way and many more adventures, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good life. I mean, a lot of guys come into this business when they're younger and they can't take it. They sit around hotel rooms all day going crazy, and that's not the way to do it. Two or three of the guys that have been with me a very long time are like me. They like an adventure and they like a bit of culture. So yeah, we get out and see the places. I've had some wonderful times. Just the other day I was playing in a small town in the north of England with the acoustic band, a town nobody really knows called Northwich, and there's a famous piece of civil engineering there. It's a boat lift, the Anderton boat lift, and it lifts on drops canal boats, narrow boats, 50 feet from the River Weaver to the canal, the Mersey Canal, and I went there and got photos taken. It was just fantastic to know I'd seen it, a box to tick. I like all that. Yeah, it's a bit of an adventure.
Super stuff. Now, Steve, one thing I've never asked you, when you were growing up as a teenager, who were your inspirations? Who did you look to and you think, that's the reason I want to be in the music industry?
Well, I didn't. I was a voracious reader of fiction, and I was always going to be a newspaper reporter, always. When I was 12, I told the school that, and of course I was. I trained and was a reporter for 4 years. That was my dream, Inky Fingers. It was only when I was like about 19, that I realised that I was playing the guitar all the time and writing songs, and I had to get out of journalism where I was, local papers hurt people. And so when I was a kid, it was Buddy Holly and Elvis and Roy Orbison, the stuff that in the late 50s, early 60s that was on the Light programme on the radio. But it was because of the Beatles and Bob Dylan and the Stones and Motown. Tamla Motown was a fantastic influence on me. Absolutely adored it. So yeah, it was the music of its time, obviously. Yeah,
Motown, of course, was absolutely terrific. I mean, they might not have broken through, in such a big way early on, had it not been for Dusty Springfield, believe it or not, who got them on Ready, Steady, Go for a 1 hour special when they came over, because they've been playing up and down the country to half-full auditoriums, and they were getting very depressed. That's in '64, but then Dusty got them.
I managed to get to one of those package tours of the Tamla acts. I saw the Temptations, the Miracles,
Stevie Wonder,
Bill, and the Four Tops. You're fantastic. They all did 20 minutes, but it was a wonderful experience. I was only about 15.
Fantastic. Now, my producer and co-presenter wanted to ask you a couple of questions. So this is Adrian.
Just a couple of things I just wanted to say. I was looking at what you've just done recently, of course, and we all know that the lockdown was tough and your album came out, and of course this tour was put back. And of course the way of the world at the moment with the Ukrainian thing, and I think you've done something quite significant there. And I saw there's a lady who's won a raffle for one of your guitars. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I took part in a benefit in Holborn in London with Howard Jones. And I just offered up a guitar and some tickets and stuff, and she did well. She won it. It was like 10 quid a ticket. About 600 people went into it, but some were putting up £100 because the guitar was a 77 Gibson acoustic guitar.
Yeah, so I see.
Yeah, I suppose it was worth. If you were buying it on eBay from a punter, from a person, it would be about £1,200, £1,500 its value. But it's a beautiful guitar, and she got it, and I could present it to a backstage of show earlier in the year, a few weeks ago, in fact. Yeah,
what a
£7,500 it raised.
Yeah, and I thought I just wanted to bring that up because I think what a great thing to do. Doff my cap to you for doing that, Steve.
Well, thank you, but it's easy enough, Adrian. It's guitars are tools of the trade for us.
Sure.
I buy quite a lot of them and don't know how to sell them.
Indeed.
I wouldn't have strangers come to my house, so it's good to sell them or pass them on to charity. We do it. I've auctioned quite a few over the years, but this one was a great idea to do it as a raffle. Someone else came up with the idea.
Yeah.
So she's got a wonderful guitar for 10 quid.
Tell us a bit more about the lineup you've got with the show, because it's an acoustic setup. How different would it be from maybe what you were doing previously?
Well, previously it was a trio, the acoustic shows. It was piano, keyboards with me and Barry Wickens on violin and guitar. This is all strings because the Uncovered album is all strings. There's no keys on it. There's no electric notes on it or anything like that. It's all acoustic strings, guitars, double bass, violin, viola, and a string quartet. So that's what we're out as, a quartet. David Delar is playing, kind of sensational, beautiful, wonderful guitar. He had to play all of Martin Simpson's parts because Martin's the guitarist on the album, but couldn't come on tour with me. He's got his own agenda, his own live.
Of course he has. Yeah.
Live career.
Yeah.
But he recommended young David Delar, who is sensational, and it's me and David, Barry Wickens, who plays everything, as you know, and Ollie Hayhurst on double bass. Lovely guys. There's 6 of us travel around in a really comfortable splitter bus. That's like the back third takes the equipment, and there's all these lovely big old armchair seats with a table in the back, and it's just a nice way to go about it all. Nice guys.
Excellent.
It's good out there.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a different sort of arrangement from the original songs and things that you did back in the day. I assume you still cover all those sort of stuff as well. Do you still do versions?
Yeah.
So there are unplugged versions of Judy Teen and things like that, which would be great.
You got it. It's fantastic. It's not difficult, as I said. It's just a song.
Yeah.
I don't play when I say to these guys who are the new kid in town. I don't say, here's the record, here's the original, and this is what you've got to learn. I sit them down and say, here's the song.
Yeah.
And I play it on the guitar.
And let them interpret it.
Yeah. Say, here's the song. Now let's play it. Oh, if there's a theme, a motif, musical motif, like you say Judy Teen, well, it does have this bop, 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 bop. It does have that motif. So they learn that. They learn the obvious bits, but otherwise, these are top-line musicians, and I just throw the song at them, and we get on with it. There's a lot of improvisation as well. It's what it is. Just great players playing these. Yeah, it's 23 songs, 22 songs in the set, so it's not all half of 5 or 6 from the new album.
So it's a bit up close and personal, almost like an evening with concept then.
Well, I talk a little bit. I mean, I tell a few stories here and there, but it's 90%. It's music. I realised in the lockdown periods, guys, it came clear to me from Zoom meetings I had with fans, 300 at a time on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
It came to me obvious how much people have missed live music, theatre generally, but live music, they were missing it. People want to have a ticket in the kitchen drawer,
Yeah, absolutely.
But they want to have a date written on the calendar. In June the 9th, I'm seeing Steve in Portsmouth. Those who are coming, it means the world to us all, to musicians, to the people who work at the venues, but to audiences. They're all like-minded. When you play to 300, 400, 500, 600 people in the small acoustic venues that I play, they're all there for one common reason, one purpose. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
And there's a bond, and I've noticed it, like I never did for 48 years. Now it's 50 years, and I get it. I've understood what's going on out there now.
You never stop learning, do you? That's the way of the world.
Yeah.
It's been great for you. I mean, you say 50 years. I mean, 2018, you get a Lifetime Achievement Award for acoustic music, which is a great tribute, Steve, to get these kind of awards.
Wasn't that nice? That was a huge surprise. We were playing an acoustic festival in the Midlands. It's a famous one. It's the Acoustic Festival of Britain. Yeah, and the promoter just strolled on stage before the end of our show, and presented it in front of thousands of people. I was very, very touched. It was a huge surprise, and it's always nice to get, I don't know, to get a bit of credit. I don't need it. I don't do it for that. And I don't need it. I really, obviously, the playing, the touring, I've got a great life. But it was a lovely little nod in my direction. I was very touched. It sits on my grand piano.
Lovely.
Living room. Yeah.
Now, on the Uncovered album, I played it again in the studio day before yesterday, Steve, in full. And I wanted to ask you about the covers that you selected to do. You had a knack on this album of making the songs sound like you knew where they came from. Now, that may seem a controversial statement, but for example, when you did Emma, I could tell it was an Errol Brown song. Something you did in the production or the mixing, when you got Out of Time done, you know, I could hear Jagger and Richard in the background. And then you go to How Can I Tell You, and I'm thinking, you know, this is a Cat Stevens song. Now, I don't know how you did it, but they had that wonderful tone on this Uncovered album.
Well, when I sat, this is a pure organic recording, you know. There's no EQ, there's no knob twiddling, there's no effects, nothing whatsoever. I mean, the engineer said, so you don't really want me to engineer? And I said, that's it, mic us up.
Yes. And
that's what it is. It's probably the first truly organic album you've ever heard.
Well, that's great. So it's almost like a live.
And it sounds like, I just said to him, I've got to sound like I wrote these songs. As I said about my own, I played these to the musicians in the studio on my guitar and said, this is the song. And Martin Simpson from the folk and roots world, he didn't know most of these songs.
Wow.
He didn't know the Cat Stevens. He didn't know the Long Pigs one. He didn't know the Star of Belle Isle, which is a traditional Newfoundland song. So he didn't know them. He was thinking they were mine. He thought Steve's written this song, and this is how it goes. And that's how we recorded them. I had to claim ownership, as it were, to make the job worthwhile. You call them covers, and I understand what you mean, but we do refer to them as interpretations.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You know, because I wanted to sound like I was in the living room with you, or in your car with you. And it does. I'm really proud of this album, and that's why we call it the new album, because it's 2 years old, but you know, it's out for 3 weeks before the door slammed. So this year, we're out there doing it. We're coming to Portsmouth to present some of it, to promote it, you know, as well as all the rest of the show. Yeah, it's. I'm pleased to hear what you just said. That was our aim, was to make them sound personal. I mean, Errol Brown could write a brilliant narrative. He was a really great lyricist, and it's just a joy to interpret these great songs.
Steve, you're absolutely right. It's Adrian again. I'm just you just mentioned something there. I run an independent record label as well, and as part of that, I work with a few great people. Most of them are originals, but you get great interpreters of song. I work with a lady called Barb Younger. Now, Barb is one of the finest interpreters of songs, female singers, that I know. And her American songbook is so different. It's just stripped back. She does a lot of Tom Waits stuff. And it's just brilliant. And it is interpreting the song, not covering it. And that's exactly what you've done
right.
here. And it's
brilliant.
I mean,
there's 130 plus covers of Make Me Smile.
Yeah, of course.
I've heard 30 of them over the years, and only about half a dozen stand out as true interpretations.
Yeah.
Make them their own.
Absolutely.
Erasure, Vince Clarke did it brilliantly. The Duran did it brilliantly. The Wedding Present. You hear them, and they're nothing like the original.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've interpreted it to be their sound, and I admire them for that. But when you do a cover, you think, why did you bother?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it the way Steve did it, you know?
Yeah, especially if they're paired right back as well, which, you know, so with someone like Barb Younger, it's just a piano and her singing, you know.
There you go, well, if the song stands up...
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, a lot of music is production.
Yeah.
One of my favourite records of all time is Firestarter.
Yeah.
Prodigy. The Prods. But you wouldn't want to sit at the piano and say, here's my new song.
No.
Because it's a record, it's a recording, a production. But if the song stands up, like anything by Tom Waits, who you mentioned would, you know, then you can do your own interpretation stripped back.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
So about the tour, Steve, you kicked off in Sale, I believe, on the 5th of May. You finish in Stroud on the 9th of July. You're covering Nottingham and Bristol and Southend and Corby. But next week, on Thursday the 9th, you're going to be at the new Theatre Royal in Portsmouth. Now, Aid and I can relate to this theatre. I actually compared a show with Joan Armatrading down there a few years ago. So it's a lovely theatre, isn't it?
It is. I know it. I've been there. I've played there.
Yeah. So lovely.
I like the old stuff. I mean, the dressing rooms were a bit cramped backstage in the older theatres, but we just get on with it. You know, it's a lovely place. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, on behalf of myself and everybody in Aiden connected with the Soft Rock Show, thanks for taking the time. We'll see you and 9th of June down at Portsmouth there at the new Theatre Royal. Have yourselves a great gig, Steve, and you're wonderful to talk to. Thank you very much for the time on behalf of everybody connected with the Soft Rock Show.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steve.